Here's what's happening with NATO and Ukraine, and it's raising some big questions. American expert Will Shriver slammed NATO's strategy after Russia targeted foreign military specialists in Ukraine, calling it outright stupidity in a post on X. He pointed out that it's now open season on US and NATO personnel in Ukraine and asked if NATO is really ready to deal with the losses or even boost its presence there, as some members are suggesting. Last week, Russia's defense ministry claimed a missile strike on the Kraken unit's HQ in Kharkiv killed up to 40 foreign specialists, mostly Americans. In another attack, they reported taking out 72 Ukrainian personnel and 9 French instructors and technicians in Odessa using an Iskander missile. Things escalated further after Ukrainian forces, reportedly using US ATACMS and British Storm Shadow missiles, struck targets in Russia's Kursk and Bryansk regions on November 19th. In response, Russia launched a major strike on Ukraine's military-industrial facilities, hitting a big weapons production site in Dnipro. This back and forth makes you wonder, how far is NATO willing to go? And is the current strategy sustainable, or is it just fueling an already dangerous situation? Here's the scoop. Donald Trump recently made a pretty bold statement on Truth Social about the conflict in Syria. He basically said the US shouldn't get involved at all. According to Trump, Syrian opposition fighters have pulled off a highly coordinated offensive, taking multiple cities and now positioning themselves near Damascus. He suggested they're gearing up to make a serious move to oust Assad. Trump also pointed out that Russia, bogged down in Ukraine with reportedly massive losses, he claims over 600,000 troops, doesn't seem capable of stopping this rebel advance. He argued that Russia's involvement in Syria was never really beneficial to them. It just made Obama look bad at the time. His takeaway? The US has no reason to meddle. Syria's in chaos, but Trump says it's not America's fight, and we should let things play out on their own. Meanwhile, the fighting in Syria is heating up. Big battles are raging in Homs, and Assad's forces are regrouping near Damascus to prepare for what could be a final stand for the capital. Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal reported that Assad's wife, Asma, and their kids quietly left the country last week, which might signal how serious the situation has become. It looks like Ukraine just scored a big win on the battlefield. Their drones managed to take out one of North Korea's Bull-C-4 vehicles, which are packed with anti-tank missiles. These vehicles only started showing up on the front lines about 4 months ago, and this marks the first confirmed hit on one of them. According to reports, some of the 8 missiles it carried were also destroyed. A unit from Ukraine's brigade claims credit for the strike, saying, "We're destroying the enemy every day." Bold words, but clearly backed up by action. This attack is a big deal because it's part of a broader effort to counter North Korea's increasing support for Russia. Along with these vehicles, Pyongyang has reportedly sent several dozen M1989 tanks and M1991 rocket launchers, plus about 1,000 soldiers to aid Moscow. Russia needs all the help it can get. They've been losing between 1,200 and 2,000 troops and around 100 vehicles daily. Some believe these desperate moves aim to grab as much territory as possible before Donald Trump, the new US president-elect, takes office. So North Korean soldiers are officially in the mix, but they're not on the front lines, at least not yet. Ukraine's National Resistance Center says about 12,000 North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia, mostly in the Kursk region. They're manning observation posts and checkpoints, freeing up Russian forces to head to the front. This is all part of a friendship deal between Moscow and Pyongyang. Ukraine's President Zelensky pointed out that Russia is treating these soldiers well, likely as a way to encourage North Korea to send even more. He also mentioned that the first casualties among North Korean troops have been reported, but he didn't share the numbers. There's more, though. Ukraine claims that around 2,000 North Koreans are now supporting Russian Marine and airborne units actively fighting in the war. Even if they're not directly pulling triggers, they're clearly involved in operations that strengthen Russia's offensive capabilities. To top it off, Ukraine's defense minister accused these forces of helping target Ukraine's energy infrastructure. North Korea's contributions aren't just manpower. They've also been supplying ballistic missiles and artillery shells to Russia since the invasion began. This partnership isn't a casual thing. Moscow and Pyongyang signed a strategic deal back in June, promising to have each other's backs in case of attacks. It's a concerning development for anyone keeping an eye on this conflict. Here's an interesting take from Poland. Presidential candidate Sławomir Mencen, representing the right-wing Confederation coalition, has made it clear he's against any Polish involvement in the war in Ukraine. According to him, Polish soldiers shouldn't be dying for places like Donbass or Crimea. His argument? Poland's military should focus solely on defending Poland. Mencen also emphasized wanting a proud, sovereign Poland, one that doesn't have to ask for approval from Berlin, Brussels, or Washington before making its own decisions. Meanwhile, let's not forget that Polish President Andrzej Duda revealed back in August that Poland has already spent a staggering 3.3% of its GDP, over $26 billion, on helping Ukraine. That's a massive commitment, and it's clear the debate over how much more Poland should be doing isn't going away anytime soon. So, here's the latest update from Syria, and it's pretty significant. Rebel forces have just taken control of Daraa, the city where the uprising against Bashar al-Assad first began back in 2011. This is the fourth major city Assad's forces have lost in just a week. According to the rebels, Assad's army agreed to withdraw in exchange for safe passage for its officers to Damascus. Daraa is more than just another city. It's hugely symbolic because of its role as the birthplace of the rebellion. Before the war, it was home to over 100,000 people, so this is a big deal. Meanwhile, rebels are also advancing towards Homs, a strategic city that could cut off Damascus from Assad's coastal strongholds if captured. On top of that, the US-backed Kurdish coalition has taken Deir ez-Zor in the east, and the rebels already hold Aleppo and Hama. Assad's grip on power is slipping fast, and experts are pointing out that his key allies, Russia and Iran, are stretched thin and less effective than before. To add to this, Abu Muhammad al-Golani, a rebel leader, is saying the regime is broken and that they're now in a position to end Assad's rule for good. If true, this could be a turning point in the conflict.